1-drops define games of Magic. They set the pace, they shape entire formats, and in some cases, they completely take over the game before your opponent even gets a second turn. Across Magic's history, a handful of 1-mana cards have proven that mana cost does not equal power. These are cards that can scale, snowball, and remain relevant from turn 1 to turn 10. Today, we're counting down the 10 best 1-drops of all time, based on power, impact, and how often they fundamentally change the game when they resolve. Some of these warped formats, some became staples across multiple archetypes, and number 1 is so strong, it still sparks arguments years later. Let's get into it. At number 10, we're starting with a 1-drop that looks fair until you remember you're playing Commander. At number 10, we have Serra Ascendant. For 1 white mana, you get a 1/1 human monk that reads lifelink. As long as you have 30 or more life, this creature gets +5/+5 and has flying. You read that right. In Commander, this is a 1 mana, 6/6 flying lifelink. That's not just efficient, that's absurd. Left unanswered, it dominates combat, stabilizes life totals, and pressures the entire table. Few 1-drops force removal as fast as this one. To no one's surprise, Serra Ascendant is one of the most popular cards in the Commander format. Next up is a card that turns 1 mana into a terrifying countdown. At number 9, we have Glistener Elf. For 1 green mana, you get a 1/1 elf warrior that reads Infect. This creature deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters and to players in the form of poison counters. As a reminder, poison counters are placed on players. When a player has 10 or more poison counters, it results in an instant loss, bypassing the life total. Even in Commander, this creature doesn't need to deal much damage. It just needs to connect a few times, or once with help. Infect fundamentally changes how opponents have to play the game, and Glistener Elf is the cleanest, most efficient example of that mechanic. Pump spells turn it into a lethal threat out of nowhere, and even the possibility of it connecting forces opponents into awkward situations. Love it or hate it, this card has ended more games on turn 2 than almost anything else on this list. Number 8 is a 1-drop that doesn't win games by attacking. It wins them by making sure nothing important ever dies. At number 8, we have Mother of Runes, aka Mom. For 1 white mana, you get a 1/1 human cleric that reads, tap. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until the end of turn. This includes herself, by the way. She protects key creatures, blanks combat, and forces opponents to sequence perfectly just to make progress. For a single white mana, she demands constant respect. And if she survives a turn cycle, she takes over the game. At number 7, we have a 1-drop that doesn't care about mana curves, colors, or fair magic. This card enables some of the most broken interactions the game has ever seen. At number 7, we have Goblin Welder. Goblin Welder turns graveyards into toolboxes and artifacts into liabilities. With a single activation, it can cheat massive threats into play, undo removal, or assemble combo pieces instantly. There's a reason this card is feared in Vintage and Cube. It's 1 mana, and it plays by completely different rules. Coming in at number 6 is a 1-drop that has stolen more games than it has any right to. This card doesn't ramp, it teleports threats into play. At number 6, we have Goblin Lackey. For 1 red mana, you get a 1/1 goblin that reads, whenever this creature deals damage to a player, you may put a goblin permanent from your hand onto the battlefield. If Goblin Lackey connects even once, the game can be effectively over. Dropping huge goblins far ahead of curve is backbreaking, and the pressure this card creates on turn 1 is unreal. Kill it immediately or lose. Number 5 is a card so cleanly designed that it's been a staple since Alpha. It fixes mana, it accelerates your game plan, and it fits into almost any deck that can cast it. At number 5, we have Birds of Paradise. For 1 green mana, you get a 0/1 bird that reads, flying. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Birds of Paradise is the gold standard for mana dorks. 1 mana, any color, flying for utility. It does exactly what you want, exactly when you want it. If you've ever played green, you've played this card, and for good reason. At number 4, we have a 1-drop that doesn't stay small for long. We have Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student, and on the other side, Tamiyo, Seasoned Scholar. For 1 blue mana, you get a 0/3 legendary Moonfolk Wizard that reads, flying. Whenever Tamiyo attacks, investigate, which is create a clue token, which is an artifact that you can pay 2 mana, sacrifice, and draw a card. When you draw your 3rd card in a turn, exile Tamiyo, then return her to the battlefield transformed under her owner's control. Now let's read the backside. Tamiyo Seasoned Scholar. +2. Until your next turn, whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, it gets -1/-0 until end of turn. -3. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If it's a green card, add 1 mana of any color. -7. Draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library, rounded up. You get an emblem that reads, "You have no maximum hand size." This draws cards, generates advantage, and transforms into a powerful planeswalker if left unchecked. This card blurs the line between creature and planeswalker. Early game, it pressures and accrues value. Cast a simple brainstorm and completely take over. For 1 mana, that's an outrageous rate. Now we're in the top 3 and things get oppressive. This 1-drop punishes greedy decks, draws cards, and scales beautifully in multiplayer. At number 3, we have Esper Sentinel. For 1 white, you get a 1/1 human soldier that reads, whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player plays X, where X is this creature's power. Esper Sentinel turns every non-creature spell into a dilemma. Pay extra or give your opponent cards. In Commander, where spells fly constantly, this card quietly draws an absurd number of cards for a single white mana. It's efficient, annoying, and incredibly effective. This is a 1-drop that completely redefined tempo. This creature ramps, draws cards, and pressures planeswalkers, all for a single mana. At number 2, Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. For 1 red mana, you get a 2/1 legendary monkey pirate that reads, whenever Ragavan deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token and exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card. Dash. For 1 and a red, you can cast this spell for its dash cost. If you do, it gains haste, and it's returned from the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If Ragavan connects, you're suddenly ahead on mana, cards, and information. When it doesn't, it forces removal immediately or warps how your opponents play the game. Few 1-drops have dominated formats as thoroughly as this one. And finally, this is the 1-drop that does everything. Is it really a creature, or is it a planeswalker in disguise? At number 1, we have Deathrite Shaman. For 1 hybrid green-black mana, you get a 1/2 elf shaman that reads, tap, exile target land from a graveyard, add 1 mana of any color. Black and tap, exile target instant or sorcery from a graveyard. Each opponent loses 2 life. Green and tap, exile target creature card from a graveyard, you gain 2 life. Deathrite Shaman is arguably the most powerful 1-drop ever printed. It accelerates mana, shuts down graveyards, stabilizes life totals, and closes games. There's a reason it's banned in multiple formats. For 1 mana, it simply does too much. 1-drops may cost 1 mana, but these cards prove that they can decide entire games on their own. Let me know in the comments, which 1-drop do you think deserved a top spot? And which one has ruined your games the most? If you enjoyed this list, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.